How are you? You good?
Right.
Is anybody cold? No? Did anybody get any snow? No, it said 50% chance in Lake Kiowa this morning when I was like, really? Okay. My name is Nancy Jackson, and welcome to our town hall. Just to give you just a little bit of a outline of how we're going to do this today. Uh, we'll start at the very beginning here. We will actually start and talk about the election procedures. We will talk about the bylaws, the things that are on the ballots. We'll talk about our candidates that are running for a little bit, and then we will go over a couple of rulings and things like that. And then we'll take a break whenever that ends. And at 5 o'clock, we'll start our next town hall, which is on Watercraft, on Watercraft and Lake Kiowa. And we'll have a presentation that goes with that at the very beginning. We have a couple of emails. I'm not sure how many people have gotten emails, but I know I have. And a couple of those I think we're going to read. And then we will talk about opening it up for discussion. Along the way, if you've got a question, like whenever we talk at the very beginning here in the first part of our town hall, if you have a question about election procedures or what is really on the ballot or the road reserve fund or any of those things, you can ask those. Just allow whoever's speaking on them to sort of finish where they are, and then they will recognize you. Okay? Is that all right, guys? Are going to speaking? And uh, and then at 5 o'clock when we start, our board that's here will be up at the tables, and then we will do as we did back in October. We'll give everybody a couple of minutes if they want to share something about watercraft or the lake or their concerns or anything like that. We'll open that up, and that will go to 6, and then we will stop at 6, have another break, and at 6:30 we'll have our candidate forum, and KWC will run that for us. After the candidate forum, the candidates are invited, as well as you, to stay in this room and have a mixer with them. And so if you want to ask them individual questions, you can certainly do that. And between now and I don't know if it'll be 5 or 6, the bar will be set up in the back corner. So people always ask me that. So just want to let you know that will be set up in the back to help facilitate. It will be a member charge. It is not an open bar. It is a member charge. So, but the bar will be back there with tea, water, and other beverages that you might like. So I'm going to turn it over to Rich, and Rich is going to start his first part of the election process.
Hello, I'm Rich Augustiniak, Community Manager. Just to start out, let's see if this works. It does. Nancy went over the agenda. Likewise, I'll just go over some of the basics of our elections procedures. Then I'll talk about the director election, the revenue ruling we have, and then I'll move into the bylaw that we have coming, which is actually the election for a new reserve fund. So we have 6 candidates up for election: Rick Jameson, John Makuta, Mark Tarpley, Lisa McCrae, Dusty Turner, and Josh Orton. You get to vote for 3 directors maximum. If you only vote for 1 or 2, that's fine too, but you only can vote for 3 maximum. And the 3 candidates who have the most votes at the end of the election will become the new directors. And we do have 3 directors rolling off this year. The next hold on, I skipped over this one. I'll go over the whole thing first of all. So yes, we elect 3 directors every year. 3 roll on, 3 roll off. We have 9 directors total. The election's in February, runs for 30 days because February is 28 days. It starts January 1st, runs through March 1st. And then I'd just like to thank Kathy Gray. She's on the election committee. She always checks in every year, makes sure everything's getting done. And then the nominating committee, Dylan, Bria Ballard, they're both on the board, Yvonne, Sherry Demarest, Bill Little, and Jennifer Monda. Went over this. So I'll go to the next vote is the revenue ruling, which basically is any excess funds that we had at the end of the year. This is voting that we roll those over into the next year, and the board will have discretionary funds. They'll roll over into CARF, and they'll be able to vote to use those funds in the following year. This is a majority ruling, so The majority plus one would pass this as a voter against ballot. The next item, the biggest item on the list, is the bylaws, which we don't have any bylaw changes per se, no language changes, but we do have a potential new section that'll be added for a new road reserve fund. This road reserve fund is for the basic maintenance of the roads. It will not be part of the normal 5% O&M assessment, but it will be an additional fee of $20 every month. So it'll be a new fund and an additional $20, and that will be subject to the same as O&M and CARF of a 5% increase every year. This is a vote for or against again, and this is also just a majority ruling. So it's a majority plus one will pass this, and it'll become a new reserve fund. Some of the rationales for this are, it's one of our biggest assets in the community. And one of the issues is it's used as the majority out of ARF, and that's our asset replacement fund. Currently, it takes about $250,000 a year out of that fund, and it projects to basically go in zero in 2036. So in 2036, the only funds will be coming into ARF are your yearly monthly dues, and our expenses exceed those dues. So again, it'll be $20 a month. Right now, there's 1,467 lots members. So that projects out to $352,000 a year. And that exceeds the $250,000 that we currently use in ARF, but we also use $100,000 in O&M, or hopefully use up to $100,000 in O&M is what we budget for. And then last year and this year, we'll be using an initiation fee to help supplement that. So again, just briefly, this will be a dedicated reserve fund only for the roads. Won't be able to use it for anything else. One of the major benefits of this is it'll make ARF sustainable. Like I said, in 2036, this goes zero. So we're not utilizing $250,000 a year in ARF, and we'll be able to have another fund to utilize funds. ARF will be sustainable. We won't have any issues with it. All these rulings, the board of directors, the three new board of directors, the revenue ruling, and this new road reserve fund, after the election ends in March 1st, there'll be an annual members meeting on Saturday, March 14th, and Nancy will announce all the winners and if anything passed or failed, as well as an overall, assessment of the community and what went on for the year, kind of an annual update. Any questions as of now for any of those? Oh, yeah. Could you give your lot name?
George Chapman, 544.
Thank you.
If the road proposal passes, then really what we're saying is this year we're going to have a 12% increase in our annual or our monthly dues.
I don't know what the percentage is, but yeah, it'll be more than the 5%. Yeah.
Well, it'll be more than twice the 5%.
Correct.
So, how much of the money is going to be taken out of the existing fund and put into the roads? In other words, are you going to spend more than the 300 and some thousand?
Yeah, I have a longer presentation just on the road fund I'll go into now as well. But yes, what it is we won't use any ARF funds, but we'll utilize O&M as well as the initiation fund if the board directs in the future. So those will be the funds that we'll be utilizing, but we won't be utilizing any of the ARF funds after if it passes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob Hyde, lot 689 Sarcee Cove. Part of the reason why the wear and tear on the roads is there's pretty heavy truck traffic, especially with tearing down homes and building up McMansions. Has the board considered making a special fee on the construction when you have heavy trucks that really are accelerating the wear and tear on our roads?
Not specifically, and I don't know the logistics of how to do that. Theoretically, for permits, we do get a permit fee that goes into our normal O&M account. So if you want to consider the building permit fees as part of the supplement of that, we had over $100,000 in permit fees this year. Any more questions on the election itself? Okay, the road reserve fund. Again, we're trying to, why do we want a road reserve fund? Lake Kiowa is a very special community. It's aged. We're well over 50 years old. We have over 22 miles of road, and it's one of our largest assets. And as I stated before, over the years, the road's been paid for through normal assessments. There were special assessments that went on, the 1 year, 2 year, 3 year assessments that paid for everything. 2016, or just before, is when we started utilizing the R funds. So we've used the R funds. O&M has fluctuated over the years. And just recently, we were able to use the initiation fees. Do we have enough money? As I already stated, for the cost of the roads, we don't really have enough money. ARF will fail in about 10 years. And then can the county or state help? As a private road, as a private community, the states and counties will not step in and help fund this. If we were to possibly get any funds, we wouldn't be able to be a gated community. So if we ever wanted to use state or county funds, first we'd have to upgrade our roads to county levels, and we wouldn't be able to be have a gated community. We could have security, but no gates. Some of the benefits that would help the community is, safe travel for access, protecting the values of your property, your homes, and also spreading the costs out fairly throughout everyone. And again, trying to prevent strain. At some point, our fails, the only way to be able to do roads would be through special assessments. So again, this is just, looking forward, trying to find everything sustainable, just to have a thoughtful way of trying to address this now as opposed to the future. And just getting into some of these costs. Again, the funding for this year, an example, we had about $530,000, which we had about $100,000 from O&M, your normal dues, $250,000 from ARF, and $184,000 from the initiation fee. This year in the initiation fee, we actually have about $269,000. So that's been a great help asset. If you want to see some of the road work we did this year, we'd only be able to do about half of it if it wasn't for the initiation fee. So just looking at some of the numbers, again, 2016, we started utilizing the R funds, $250,000 a year, but it's been $250,000 a year every year since 2016. It hasn't increased. And asphalt road repairs increased about 6 to 9% a year, even more than inflation. But even if we just increased what we had spent every year by 3%, we would have been up to $336,000 already if we were able to increase that every year. And over that time, not increasing it, we have over a $450,000 shortfall, which weren't spent on roads. So what we're asking for is $20 a month. So every lot would be about $240. That would get, the current fund up to $352,000 over a complete year, which is basically where we should be if we had been increasing the R fund every year since 2016. So if this gets passed, obviously it's not going to be a full year, but we'd be in as good as, if not better situation we currently are. Even if we start getting this fund in April's dues and start this in April, we'll have over $250,000 for next year, which is $264,000. And if we increase this at 5% a year, not that we have to, but if we did increase it at 5% a year, it would increase and basically get us to the $350,000, as I stated before. So again, just go over what some of the costs of what roads are. I mean, just crack sealed, a little cracking the seals in the road. I mean, that's 7 cents a square foot. Doesn't seem a lot, but you've seen some of the lines out there. That all adds up quickly. Seal coating, you'll see just the spray coating, or if they put it down with the broom and brush, that just basically just coats over. That's over almost $50,000 a mile. So if we just did that over 22 miles of road, that's over $1 million. Chip seal, if we were to do that, that's $500,000 a mile. Just road striping, 2 coats of regular road striping is almost $200,000 if we did all 22 miles. And basically that striping only lasts about a year or two, and you've seen the paint fade. What we typically have been doing lately is a 2-inch overlay asphalt. That costs, over $200,000 a mile. If we were to do all 22 miles of the roads, it would be over $5 million. And at a certain point, you can't do any of those things. You have to basically mill the road down to the base and redo the road. That costs over $400,000 a mile. So you're looking at 22 miles of roads we have, almost $10 million to do all the roads. As a rate we're doing that, you couldn't even do that in 30, 40 years. Even with the fund we're asking for and moving forward, that's about a 20-year plan to do all the roads over that time period. So none of this is a quick fix either way, but at least this way it's sustainable and something that will have the funds going on into the future. So again, the request, the Ways and Means has looked at this, we vetted this, it was recommended to the board to be put on the ballot. The board approved it. So what we have is to add a reserve fund per the bylaw 16.01, to add a new reserve fund. It's a simple majority vote. And the ballot would look something like this, which I showed before. So this is the ballot. It's basically stating the creation of the new reserve fund. It's not part of your normal O&M dues. It's an additional $20. And what we're putting in here is the option to raise it at 5% a year if necessary. Again, it's just a for and against vote, and it'll be a simple majority vote. So again, we're trying to get for the community, strong roads, strong community, and hopefully we get the vote and get there. Thank you. Any questions? Okay.
Name and lot number.
Deanna Brown, lot 1469 on Sequoia. If we approve this road fund and you start using that money instead of, okay, can you hear me? Sorry. If we approve this road fund and you start using that money instead of ARF, what will the remaining ARF money be used for?
Everything it currently used for, and be specific, ARF really wasn't constructed to use those funds for road. ARF is typically, if you want to call it rolling stock or replacement, is for replacing all the equipment in the kitchen, is for replacing all the vehicles and all the equipment used in public works, all those items. Similarly, we took golf out of ARF at last year's, and basically all that did was create a separate fund so you could look at the items easily there. That was no additional money, but it was kind of separate golf out. One of the issues with all these funds, and I think it's great just to have a few buckets of money to be able to use everything, but one of the problems is you only have a couple buckets. You tend to pick things out of it to use it for things that it probably really shouldn't be. One of the issues with ARF, like I said, it gets depleted. Even O&M, to balance the budget, sometimes we don't spend $100,000. We'll spend as little as $25,000 to meet the budget. One benefit of having a dedicated fund, it can only be spent on the roads, or it only can be spent on golf. This helps ARF kind of dedicate itself to what it really was meant for, was replacement of all the rolling stock. Can you hear me?
Started.
Sorry. Don't we have a special fund to replace all of our equipment?
That is ARF, correct.
Oh, okay. Well, where does the money go that goes to our regular monthly dues?
The regular monthly dues, your O&M dues, that is for salaries for general maintenance and upkeep, not for replacement or refurbishment. Yeah.
Ready? Sam Samuel, lot 1320. This afternoon, I was looking at the latest treasurer's report, and the question I have two questions. I noticed that there are numerous cedars on the various different funds that we have, which is drawing interest, which I don't know what happens to it. And also there was a $1.8 million treasury note that we get apparent interest. Maybe Dan can tell more. What goes with the money that's there to where it could not be used? are we not spending money are we just letting it sit there? Or what are we doing with the money that's coming to the Cedars and to the Treasury note? And the other thing is, do we have a road plan that's going to be used if this passes to where you have it laid out how it's going? I know a few years ago, we came up with developed a plan to where this could be done. And I'm just wondering if that's where we are with it now. I know I've talked to you many times now about a place over there at Colt and Kiowa Drive East that's been months and it has not been repaired. And I was told in October we would have it done and it hadn't been done yet. So thank you.
Let me address the plan first. I mean, yes, the last time they rated the roads or did the CPI was 2013. And again, that plan went from 2013, 2014, 2015. But after that, it really weren't able to keep up a plan. So the next step would be to do another CPI rating. And if we knew we got this fund passed, we'd be able to plan better on what we can do and try to do a 3-5-year plan on the roads. As far as Colt itself, if you notice, we did the pipe repair. We just, had to do some of it you have to wait. We had to fill all the cavities that were underneath the road. So we packed it. That has to sit there for a while. So we did that. Now we recently, if you notice, we concreted one end and concreted the other end. So hopefully, they're scheduled. Sometimes we're on a little bit mercy of the contractors, but they are scheduled to finish that patch on there shortly, relatively.
Hi, I'm Dan Bessie. I'm the treasurer on the board. To answer your question, Sam, about the investments, is that the royal we, Crystal, the controller, keeps track of the money and it's bucketed by where the source is. So if we have money for the different reserve funds that are invested, some at Fidelity in Treasury, some, in CDs. So that money goes back to that fund. So if you have $1.3 million in the ARF funds, for example, any interest that's earned from that $1.3 million goes into ARF. So it grows by that amount. Same. And in cash we have from O&M, that money is accrued and put into O&M, operations and maintenance. So, so it really is part of that kitty designated for whether it's, CARF, ARF, operations, maintenance, whatever, it gets allocated back.
What question I have is the $1.8 million in the treasury one. I'm sure it's drawing interest. I'm sure it's got money. Where did it go? Can that not be used for roads?
But specifically, that money goes into those funds. So we have money from O&M that is in a account drawing interest, any excess we have in there. And then all those that we have in the reserve funds, because we have LMRF for the lake, ARF, GCRF now, and CARF, and CDRF too, for that matter. So 5. Those, Crystal, the controller, she basically has just recently this year kind of separated those out. So if there's 1.8 million, let's say, and that's the 1.8 million treasury, just for an example, let's say that's ARF. That whatever that percentage is getting is going back into the ARF fund.
But I think the point, Sam, is that $1 million plus is allocated already. So it's ARF. We just invested the ARF money. So it's not like I heard this rumor the other day. Some folks are sitting around, oh, we have $2 million. It's like out there. It's like, no, every penny in the budget is allocated, either O&M, CARF, ARF, lake management. So if you see an investment, whether it's a CD or a treasury or whatever, it's already allocated to that fund. So there's not a pool of money sitting there that's waiting to be spent. All the money that we have, particularly ARF, we have a schedule that goes out X number of years that we're going to replace this tractor, we're going to replace this mower, we're going to replace this truck. So that money that's invested is going to be spent doing that product. So, to me, and I give Bill Little a lot of credit and some others, when he was on the treasurer on the board, really redid the investment process in that, we were getting very little return on our investment. 4 or 5 years ago, we were averaging 0.018% in income on our investments. And now, with the changes in philosophy around what we do, buying treasuries through Fidelity, this last year, we roughly, average a little around, roughly around 4% in income. So we now have tens of thousands of dollars of income coming in, not a trickle like we had before. But every dollar is already allocated. Crystal has broken everything out. So at any time, if anyone wants to see it, you can see what's allocated to ARF. You can tie this, the investments to the actual pool, the dedicated source of that money, be it ARF, CARF, LMRF, or whatever. Does that make sense, Sam? All right. Maybe
Are you asking specifically that money? Like, let's say the account's making whatever interest, that interest income, are you asking like exactly where that's specified?
Yeah, what Dan's saying is the money like from the treasury, it goes into ARF. But as a member, we're paying each month into ARF.
Correct.
Okay, so we've taken money from treasury, we're putting other money from other accounts and investments that we're getting is going into ARF too. So my question is, why can we not take this money that was going into from the treasury, put it into the road fund?
So, Sam, the issue is it's already allocated.
Schedule.
It's already part of ARF. So there's no separation between the two. I mean, could you say, I want to take money out of ARF and put it to the road fund and vote on that? Sure. But it's not investment specific. We have $1.3 million roughly in ARF. So, and that money's invested in CDs and treasuries. So, and the interest accrued or attained from those investments get allocated back to ARF. So that money's already dedicated to ARF. So, and I'm happy to come over and enjoy some of your wife's cookies and chat and be able to tie, those together, because you have a pool of money, then you have a bunch of spreadsheets that tie together, but it's hard to see. If you ever try to look at it and then communicate, it's really hard to make that map together in your head.
Just get again, ARF, like that money's allocated. It's that fund or whatever's invested is actually basically your ARF funds. It's just the interest it's accruing that goes back into that fund. Everything in that funds already has items that's spent on theoretically that's already in the schedule. So even that interest money isn't extra money. Just for this year, I think we were $200,000 over in ARF. So the money that's coming into ARF, including the interest, is still not sufficient to meet the expenses we already have going out of ARF.
One of the upgrades this year with the budget is all that interest income is forecast and budgeted. In years past, because we didn't really have any, we didn't really worry about it. But now that we have enough, as Rich said, a couple $100,000 in interest income, that's all budgeted, all allocated. So if you go through the budget, you can see, all right, this is how much money in interest income is part of the O&M budget. Here's what's going into CARF, ARF, et cetera. Bria makes a good point that, as we accumulate assets in a road reserve fund, assuming it gets passed, that will be invested in similar philosophy. Any income that we get from a CD or treasury or whatever it's invested in would get put back into the road reserve fund. So that would be part of the budgeting for that fund.
She's got a question.
Oh, this nice lady goes first.
Just real quick, I'm Julie Hendricks, lot 368. I guess I'm confused. What have we done the past 50 years?
Well, like I said, before we even started utilizing the ARF funds, there were special assessments. They actually went to membership vote and they said, for these many years, you're going to spend an extra $10 a month for roads or whatever it was.
So this is typical behavior. When you need something, you come to the members for extra money. I feel like it's a slippery slope. It kind of scares me.
Everything gets paid for by membership. If we don't have money from membership, things just simply don't get done.
Have gone up over the years to cover, I would assume, the expenses. Are we living beyond our means?
Yes. And then we're limited on what we can raise. Like ARF we're limited to raising ARF 3%. Let's just say a few years ago, inflation went up 9%. We're behind for another 3, 4, 5 years, even maxing out our increase, we're still behind. And our expenses, like we said, our ARF is probably in the worst shape, but it goes to zero. If you extrapolate everything out for 10 years, all our expenses and with the dues and with the increases, we're still go to zero.
No, I understand that. It just worries me that you're going to continue to come to the members to continue to pay for more things. I mean, roads are super important, yes, but the other things that are depleting our funds are those things, I don't know. I mean, if we've been able to get by for past, I don't know, 50 years, why now?
Well, two things. One kind of top of the house level. You know, one of the things that Rich, the POA staff and the board needs to do is to be forward thinking, need to be creating a plan as we talked about before, and not trying to wait and then go, oops, we don't have any money. Let's try to do an assessment. So this is really us trying to come across and say, hey, we have an issue. We know we have an issue. We need to put a plan together and we need to do something sustainable. Coming out and saying, all right, we want to vote on X dollars per month for 2 years. And then after 2 years, see what happens. That's really not a sustainable solution. So
I'm not against it necessarily.
No, I'm
just
just
asking questions.
no, I appreciate that. So, but my point is, this is, this came from the Ways and Means Committee. Leslie's the chair back there. I'm on that committee with a few other folks. And this is us trying to put the best idea
Plan.
forward so we have a true cost certain, sustainable plan for Kiowa.
And is this $20 a month for 12 months only, or
No,
it's
it's
forever?
forever.
That's
forever.
kind of what I thought too. Yeah. I mean, I've lived here 15 years. I know we haven't had a whole lot of this, but gosh, this thought just scares me. You're going to come after me for $20 to pay for this, and now $10 to cover
so
this.
this
and
is-
pretty soon I'm paying $500 a month, but my dues are still down here.
No, my
Sorry.
thought with that is that, the belief here is it's better to have a dedicated reserve fund. You know where the money is going, and that you're not being asked to vote every few years to buy equipment or to have additional money for the roads. This is okay. This is a true plan that's sustainable. Everyone knows what we're doing. The money can only go to the roads. So to me, this is the kind of, from a stewardship perspective, the better answer than waiting and then trying to do an assessment and hoping it passes so we can fix the roads. So this gives us the source of money that is sustainable over time. Everyone knows what it is. Everyone knows what it's for. And it's not just hoping that we get an assessment in the future after people start really getting upset about the quality of the roads.
At the risk of shooting myself in the foot, I think also what she's going for is you got to keep in mind too, our water just raised 33%. So, and that's what I mean. And that was because they didn't do anything in the past. So it's kind of one of those, everything is going up and it's just how much money can you put into it? But the 33% was a tough one. I don't think anybody doubts that. And I know the people on the water board didn't do it for fun because they all caught over it. Yeah.
$1,000 in 2025 budget for the water.
Right.
100,000.
Yes.
So, all of a sudden your budget goes up by 100,000.
Right.
Why are our dues going up? Well, property insurance went up 20%.
Yes.
Health insurance went up, water went up 33%. So those are the realities. So what do you do?
Right. But I mean, the average family looks at it as just the cost of living here. And that's not the POA's fault that the water did what it did, because that's a separate organization completely, but it all comes out of your checkbook.
And part of that is, again, we're restricted on what we can raise. Like I said, ours is only 3%. Our dues are 5%. I know that's a lot to everybody because all their costs are going up. But to Dan's point, all of ours are too. So when we tighten our budget and everything goes up 33%, 20%, 12%, we only can raise 5%. That has to be made up someplace else. Everything else suffers because of that. We don't have any other sources of revenue. So when those costs go up to us, we have to cut someplace else. Like I said, in other years, we couldn't balance the budget. We didn't do roads. Instead of spending $100,000, we spent $20,000 to patch here and there. So if we don't have the money, things don't get done.
Cecil Heath, Lot 297, just to elaborate a little bit on Rich talked about ARF and that whole thing. We have a laundry list a mile long of assets out here, and at some point their shelf life or their life expectancy comes to an end. So that's what you're looking at. And you have in there a plan to replace that asset at some given point in time with a estimated cost. The longer you wait to do that, and we do that, we look at things and say, can we go longer with a truck or a trailer or whatever it is? But then you get 2 or 3 more years down the road, and that replacement cost hasn't went up 1 or 2% a year. It's went up 6, 7, 8, 9% a year. You're behind the 8 ball with cost versus with the revenue that you bring in. That it, like Rich just said, is 3%.
Name and lot number.
Yvonne Collier, 1775. My question is, I mean, I get all of what's been said, but are there other funds that are in danger of failing? And then in 2 years, there's we need $20 more a month for the golf or the lake or the whatever.
You will have large items we discussed in golf. I mean, the greens are going to take hundreds of thousands, if not $1 million to replace. That is not in the funds, and there's no way we can increase the funds to get that sum. So at some point, certain items, especially large ticket items, will probably be additional assessments.
I think golf is a good example. We've been talking about greens replacement, which is a big ticket item, but there's, cart pass, there's sand for the bunkers, there's big things that aren't really accounted for. Well, they're accounted for, but we don't have money for. So when we do greens replacement, if we decide to do that, that'll be an assessment. If we decide to replace all the sand in the bunkers, that's going to take a big chunk out of what's in the golf course reserve fund today. So we have to make those decisions. The beauty is, again, back to Leslie and the Ways and Means Committee, all this stuff with Rich and Scott from Public Works is planned and gone through. So anytime there's a budget item that's off by more than $2,500 than what it was originally thought, which happens pretty easily if you're trying to schedule out 5-10 years from now, how are we going to replace a mower? What's the cost? That gets reviewed. And we decide, is this worth it now or not? Can we push it off to Cecil's point or not? So this is all being thought through, but I would say golf course reserve fund, if we do the big ticket items, we'll go to zero unless we do an assessment. ARF, if we don't have the road reserve fund, we'll go to zero. And then we're doing an assessment. So there's definitely challenges out there. The lake management fund, people are like, we need to dredge, and we all agree. But if we wanted to dredge everything, it's $10 to $20 million, and we have $800,000 in the fund. So, Cecil and the team have done a great job keeping silt from coming into the lake to solve, that problem. But, it doesn't get you $20 million to dredge every cove.
Lot number.
Tommy Patterson, 1735. One on each one of those things, the roads, the golf, the lake. It feels like everything is always coming out of our dues. Have we done any outside of the box thinking, such as charging an entry fee for our big trucks that come in here that ruin our roads? Charge more for the MGA and the WGA to help for greens and sand and things like that. The lake, we pay nothing for a sticker on our boat or our jet skis. Can we charge a fee to do that? Those that are using those things, in my opinion, should pay a little more.
There's been lots and lots and lots of discussion about this and ideas around what we could do. Being a POA really restricts us on what we can do. Everyone owns everything equally. So some people say, well, if golf, we spend, $900,000 a year on golf maintenance net, roughly. why can't we just charge a trail fee? If you want to bring your golf cart out there, you pay $20 a round. Well, we can't, because, that's charging a member to to use an asset they already own. Well, WGA and MGA money is completely separate. They're their own organizations. True, and they have done that in the past, and they volunteered. I think we wouldn't have a lot of cart paths if it wasn't for the MGA and WGA actually going out there on their own time and helping us put those in back in the day. So there's a lot of that going on. But again, golf is $900,000. So to say that expense that MGA and WGA should come up with $450,000 each to pay for the golf course, or pay $1.3 million for, and they definitely do. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Rich can talk to that piece, but let me step back. I think we're going to get in the weeds a little bit. Well, again, any idea is a good idea. Love to talk about it. Leslie, this is what we do in the Ways and Means Committee, is talk through all these things, come up with great ideas, and try to see if we can get them implemented. So any revenue idea is a good one. So at any time, talk to myself, Leslie, Rich, any board member will get it done. But let's just step back, and why are we talking about road reserve fund? At the end of the day, as we just talked about, we want to have roads that we're proud of, that we can use safely at Kiowa. And with the numbers Rich has gone through and some of this discussion shows, there's just not enough money. So if you want to cut $500,000, $400,000 from the operation and maintenance budget, so that means we're cutting people, because you can't cut property insurance and some of these other things, that's an option. But that, people won't say, we want more security people. We want more security people on the lake. We want, the lodge to be staffed the way it's appropriate. I mean, everyone loves the changes and the upgrades that Jeremy and team has made to the lodge. So those are the trade-offs. That was why, so for us, when we look through this, this is from a sustainable stewardship kind of perspective. This is why we're recommending the road reserve fund. I personally believe that this is the only way we can actually be able to be sure that we're going to be able to maintain our roads the way we want to. So we can, talk about around the edges, but if you need $500,000 a year for roads, can we charge $500,000 for construction vehicles on top of what we already do with the permitting process? Maybe. I'm something to look at, but anything that we can do. But again, being a POA, it's really tricky, because you can't charge a certain group for things that you're not charging other people to do. So there's been multiple challenges over the years, lawsuits around all this. So, it's really kind of hard. I mean, the biggest lawsuit I think was in the mid 80s that really kind of set the standard of what we can charge for and what we can't. So any idea is a good idea. Leslie's right there. Chair of the Ways and Means. Happy to her emails and the communicate along with mine and Rich's. So yeah. What's your address, Leslie? No. So all right. No, fair enough. But that's to me, if there's only one thing you take away from this, is we've had a problem for a long time. We've talked about it with ARF. We talked about it last year with the Golf Course Reserve Fund. And this is another opportunity to help solve some of that problem. And, is it going to cost more? Yes. Why is it going to cost more? Because everything's gotten more expensive. And I know that makes it painful, but it's the reality that if we want to do what we should be doing as stewards for the community, maintaining the roads, there's certain costs that we just have to be able to account for, because we can't cut electricity, water, property insurance, health insurance, all those things enough to make it worthwhile or meaningful for a road fund. Now that I threw your name out there 16 times.
Leslie McElroy, lot 1357.
what I will say is, as I went on to Ways and Means this year, this was the first thing that came in, and I did not know all of this ARF, FARF, GARF, whatever, all the ARFs. But as we looked at each individual fund, we were like, okay, 10 years from now, what's it going to look like? 15 years, what's it going to look like? And the ARF fund tanked in about 10 years. It just went to zero, which means we have no money for bathroom repairs, no money for so many things out here. The major assets that we have in our community are the golf course, the lake, the physical assets, buildings, and our roads. We now have individual funds already for the golf and the lake, but the roads are mixed in with everything else. It just makes sense for planning purposes and for management purposes to separate this out. Could we take the money out of ARF and put it over to roads like we did for golf? Yes, we could, but ARF is going to tank even sooner then, because there's not enough money with what we need for roads and what's in ARF to cover the road repairs, upkeeps, and all the other thousands of assets that we have around here. So that's the thought behind it, and it makes sense. It just cleans everything up a little bit from a management standpoint. So.
What fund is the money coming from to build a pickleball court?
Pickleball court has some from the donation from the pickleball club. The other sums are coming from basically CARF, but there's a CDRF and CARF function. So it's a discretionary fund that's from your dues as well. They're subsets of your overall dues. If you look at your due statements, there's a CARF line item.
So two things, right? With that, pickleball donated $140,000. Then I think another 170-ish is coming from the fund that Rich talked about, the CDRF, which is when the POA sells property. So it doesn't come from dues. It's like we've, over the last couple of years, been able to sell lots that frankly, weren't really thought of as lots we could sell, but we did, which is great. So that's revenue to the community. So if you look at what's being spent on pickleball, the vast majority is coming from donation or the Capital Development Reserve Fund, CDRF, that's coming from revenue that from lots that the POA sold. So it's not, and then there's some money coming from CARF, which comes out of the dues, but most of it is not coming from dues.
Sorry, I thought you had some more. Yeah. It's on.
John Kalina, 417. If it's going to tank, is that because our interest each year is not the same as the expenses going up? Does ARF go up 3% a year? And our expenses go up how much each year?
And if you extrapolate all expenses out themselves, there's just not enough money for the replacements, regardless, let's say what inflation is. I mean, if we can increase it more, it'd be great. But even if inflation stays the same, just the amount of assets we have that we have to replace, the cost exceeds what the fund will bring in.
Yes. So ARF is not operations and maintenance kind of thing. It's a large ticket item kind of thing. So for instance, the lodge that is 30 years old now, in 40 years, probably is going to need a major refurbishment. So what the ARF fund does is it grows with with what you pay into it. And that money stays there in this pot until these large ticket items have to be spent. So lodge maintenance, mowers, tractors. So it's not an ongoing monthly amount that you can budget out that's covered. So we may take in 300,000 in ARF this year and only spend 200,000 because we didn't have to buy a big ticket item.
But then next year we take in that 300,000 and spend 500,000 because we had to do the lodge renovation or we had to do. So it's not a steady in and out every year. What you get a year is what you spend a year. And what the schedules do is they allow for that fund to grow to the 1.8 million or whatever we have in our investments now, so that when these large ticket items come out, we have the finances for them and we don't have to do an assessment every time we need to do something like that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And I want to say something because I think just hearing people, I've lived out here for 20 years, and there is a difference between having the funds and requesting it and voting on it as a community versus the community with an assessment. The board can decide to do that because we have to have the money and we have to take it out of your dues. So I think as a community, I'd rather vote on it and have a chance to know that it's now in the budget versus 5 years from now, we've got to fix the roads and they're going to set I won't be on the board because this is my last year. But, they're going to do an assessment because they can as the board, as a community, to get things done. And you won't have a choice in your dues at that point. You either move or you pay it. So isn't it kind of nicer to be asked to vote on it? That's how I kind of feel about it. Is that right, Leslie? Because there is a difference between an assessment and the dues increase.
Pete Mason, lot 710. Hey, Dan, question. If this does get voted on and passed and implemented, is it going to be capped at a 5% increase every year?
Yes, sir. That's part of it. It's in the language on the bylaw when you look at it. So it's capped at 5%, which is the same as, the operations and maintenance budget, which includes CARF, same with Lake. So golf course and ARF are both 3%.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
It's Wayne Blacklock and 1641. And I wondered if this money is going to start filling in the holes that we have every time the water department has to cut across the road or cut into our road. And we've had a hole across up the street from us that it sounds like trucks are going to just fall apart when they hit that thing. And there's one up on Cayuga, and I think it is, and Kiowa Drive North. It's been a hole there. It's been there a year or two. And I would like to have you guys fixing those holes a whole lot faster.
Would like to fix them faster, and maybe with a fund and more money, we can actually get equipment ourselves and do it ourselves. But we do contract that out. And some of that is we have to wait until we have a bulk enough work to do it. As for the sud cuts themselves, we do repairs and we pay for them, but we actually do invoice the sud back for those repairs. So we initially pay for it, but the sud pays us back for those repairs. Is there anything else? We have a 5 o'clock meeting starting in 6 minutes. Good break. Thank you.
That you have found where the bar has been set up in the back, and you're welcome to go back there and join. We're going to start the next part of our town hall, and we will end at 6 o'clock. Just let you know. The town hall really this afternoon is for you to. We have a presentation. Bessie's going to make a presentation for us just to clarify some of the things that we heard back in October, just to make sure you understand where our lake is and sort of the size of it and those kinds of things. And then we will open it up to questions or discussion if you would like. We'll do it a little bit like we did back in October if you were there, which is everybody will have a couple of minutes and you can share your comments or what your thoughts are. This is really just, in all honesty, education for our members and education for our board, because we have some decisions to make about our lake and how we operate and how we save it and how continue to preserve it and take care of that asset, as we've just talked about how important assets are for our community. And so this is just an opportunity. There are no decisions coming out of here. It is not a formal board meeting. I will ask you to be respectful as the president of your organization. If you're not respectful to anyone in here, I will ask you to leave. People looked at me and said last time, boy, that was really harsh, but my job is to protect you, and I shall do that. Does everybody agree with that? Okay, thank you very much. And so I appreciate, I wrote down in my comments a while ago, and I'll try to remember to say it in just a little bit, but I appreciate the passion and the energy and the love you have for our community. And so therefore, it's important for me to hear what you have to say. We take every comment seriously, and we listen to them. We'll provide education if you so choose to have it. It is our privilege to serve you as a board. And I believe that I speak for everybody on that one. And so I'm going to let Dan come up and share some information with you. You want to do it from there or from here? Why don't you do it? Which is easier for you? Dan had some back surgery, if you didn't know that. So not that he wanted me to tell you that, but and so he's got a presentation for you, and then we'll turn it over to some questions and discussions and to Rich.
Great. All right. Thank you, Nancy. Can you guys hear me? All right. So this really is, all right. Wayne's telling me this isn't working, so let me hold it. Is that better, Wayne? All right. So this goes in the category, if I knew then what I know now, we would have done things differently in October. So what I wanted to do with this presentation, maybe, there we go, is just kind of step back and level set and just talk more about what we're doing. With this whole watercraft discussion, some people thought it started in October. It's really started years ago. And October was a continuation of the discussion. I give Nancy a ton of credit for being so diligent in making sure that we give everyone an opportunity to provide their feedback. So where we are, and what I'm trying to do right now is let's just start where with some of the basic facts, make sure we're level set with them, because last time I heard different things. Some of it I think were pretty accurate. Some of the things that might not have been as accurate. So let's make sure we're all on the same page, give everyone a chance to talk. But the important thing I think for today and going forward is not just to express your opinion, but see where we can find the common ground and what we can do to help move forward. We've had lots of discussions on this. So I think it's now time to say, all right, how can we come together as a community, find that common framework? So today is about information sharing, listening, understanding the facts and some trade-offs that we might have to make to get to that common ground. We're not voting on anything today. There's no predetermined outcome. This is really, just like the last meeting, a true open forum to share ideas. Being here at Kiowa, right? Everyone's here for a reason. Lake life, family, enjoying the amenities we have is really important. But also from a community perspective, safety, lake health is important too. And there's lots of passion on this topic, as Nancy mentioned, which is great, but it's all, focused on, we want Kiowa to be the best place possible. And I think it's important for everyone to understand, if someone's making a point that's different than yours, it's coming from a good place. It's coming for their passion about our community. So that's really something that I think was missing last time that hopefully we can talk about this time. So just a couple facts. As we know, Kiowa is a small lake. If you take out the no wake zones, it's roughly 300 acres of water. So that's really small. Kiowa's private water. The last time people were trying to argue or stated that it was public water because our water goes downstream and ends up being used by Dallas, or could be used by the Dallas watershed. But no, it's private. There's been lawsuits, unfortunately, that were brought up around that. but thankfully they've all settled. And at the end of the day, Kiowa is private water. So that puts the onus on us to kind of create the right rules, be able to be stewards of the lake, and kind of think through, what are the trade-offs of that. So, the state of Texas is not going to come in and tell us what to do. We have the responsibility to do it for ourselves. So, as I mentioned, this discussion around Watercraft has been around forever. The last big review of Watercraft rules was in 2018. And that's when some of the existing rules that are out there today, put into place, and at that time, it was wake enhancing activities were restricted. Since 2018, I know some people might not believe that, but that's, true. So we've been having that issue out here. It's been documented. And then probably early to mid 2024, there was another set of discussions around watercraft rules and kind of watercraft activity. And as we do a lot of surveys, right? As you guys could tell. So into 2024, we did a survey about a lot of things at Kiowa. Do you want a dog park? Do you want an east or a west gate? Those kind of things. And in typical Kiowa form, almost all the questions came back 50% yes, 50% no, or 1/3 I like it, 1/3 I don't care, and 1/3 I don't like it. The only question that came back as a majority, it's true majority, was this question number 9, around are you in favor of limiting engine type, horsepower, etc., to help control erosion and improve safety? So 73% of the people that responded to the survey said, yes, we think this is a good idea. So that kicked in another round of deeper discussion with the board, with the rules committee, lake committee, etc. So this is being studied and talked about for multiple years, and specifically since this round in 2024. So if you look at the verbatims, there was an open comment section right after that question. Here's kind of the 4 themes that come up. A lot of comments, and we'll talk about that in a second, are about wake producing boats, and then how's that work with balance against safety for other people using the lake, be it swimmers, anglers, etc. Jet skis definitely came through as people going super fast on jet skis and not necessarily having not necessarily following all the rules you would love them to follow on jet skis. So jet skis come across as a safety challenge. A lot of comments about erosion, damage to the lake walls, etc. POA member property, and that one comes across. Talked about dredging. We just talked about that a second ago. So there's opportunities there. I know that's a pretty common thought that why aren't we doing more dredging? Could we do more dredging? And the last one is we see people doing different things on the lake all the time. So if someone else is doing it, why can't I do it? Why aren't we enforcing the rules? And we've been working a lot. I know Dylan and the Safety Security Committee and Melanie have been talking about how we can get more security people on the lake to be able to understand what's really going on, so that we can make sure that we're enforcing things in a fair and consistent manner. So here's kind of the summary of the open-ended comments. The comments on the left are just randomly pulled to kind of help you get a little bit more color around what's going on. I categorized them on the right-hand side so you can see the relative frequency of those comments. They weren't pulled to make any particular point, to just really try to show the range of views that are out there. But by far, the most common was wake boats, boat size, horsepower, were the most common kind of category of questions or comments. All right. So before I move on, any questions on this kind of summary level information, the survey, anything like that? Okay, good. So the other thing that I don't think everyone understood before the last meeting was how much time and research has been done on this topic. Even outside of the rules committee and everything that has been done there, there's been a lot of research. Cecil's done research. I've done research. A number of people have done research to look at what goes on, and what are common practices within the state of Texas. And the good news is when you go through that, we're in alignment in many, many places, but there's definitely places where we're not in alignment. Don't take any of this as a recommendation. It's just really showing how Kiowa is different in our kind of practices than a lot of the smaller private lakes that are around. So we talk about boat limit. It's very common to have boat limits on smaller private lakes. 20 to 24 feet is kind of the range, the common range for that. We're talking about horsepower, and we've talked about that a lot at the last meeting. There's definitely lakes that limit horsepower. They also limit areas in a lake that boats over a certain horsepower don't go to try to protect the safety of what's ever going on in that part of the lake. So that happens. Some have speed limits. So how that gets enforced, I have no idea. But you can't go over a certain speed limit in the entire lake, or again in certain sections of the lake, to provide more safety for the people in using the lake. Another common one is dry weight and draft. When I looked at what other lakes do, like a limit on dry weight between 5,000 and 6,000 pounds is pretty common as a cap. So up to 5,000 to 6,000 pounds. I had no idea what that really meant. So I looked up my boat. I have a 22-foot Bennington Tri-Tune, and it weighs 2,350 pounds according to the manufacturer. So, half of a 6,000 pound, less than half of a 6,000 pound limit. You guys can all Google your own boats and figure out where you fit. But if my boat is less than half, I think that's something that's reasonable to think about. Draft less than 30 to 36 inches. Again, most manufacturers have that listed on their spec sheets, so that it's a little different for inboard, outboard versus outboard. But that's again something that can be black and white. You can just look it up and know, does this work or not? The idea is the bigger the boat, the bigger the draft, the longer the boat, creates more disturbance in the water, potentially creates more, more kind of potential damage because you're moving that much more water around when you're moving in the lake. So that's why a lot of those lakes do it. The other one that we're a little different, we obviously have minimums for, how close you can get to shore or to docks, 50 feet just in general, and 100 feet for towing activities. A lot of lakes I looked at were 100 feet. It was no wake within 100 feet of shore or someone's dock, and you couldn't do any kind of towing activity within 200 feet of shore or docks, which given our lake configuration, if we went to a 200-foot limit, that would take a lot of the lake out of play. But just so it's out there. And to think through what's the right answer for Kiowa. So, last time when we got together, there was a lot of comments like, why are you forcing this on us? Why did this just come up? Why, where did this idea come from? And this is where all those ideas came from. It's common practices with other Texas lakes, private lakes that are smaller and struggle with the same challenges we do, being able to provide freedom of doing what on the lake versus safety and erosion control, lake health control. 1 second, sir. We'll get to you. So we covered this last slide and we'll go to questions. So the idea is, right, we all want everyone to be able to enjoy the lake. That's one of the most beautiful things about Kiowa, is being able to be here with your kids or grandkids and having them be able to swim and enjoy it. We want to be responsible and, make sure that the lake is as safe as we can. We're making sure that people's personal property is protected or POA property is protected. We're doing the right thing for the lake so that the lake is as healthy 10, 20 years from now as it is today. We want to make sure whatever we do, everything's clear, consistently applied to everyone. And that's really the next phase, is continuing to get feedback from all of you around what this could be. Again, hopefully with an emphasis around how we can create that common framework so that we can move forward as a community. All right. So let me stop and see what kind of questions we have. I know we have one over there.
Hi, thanks. Mike Reinbrandt, lot 68. Could you go back a slide to just have a ask, I guess, for the whoever generated the slide? Lot of things on here with very little reference outside of the lakes. So this came out last night. Jumped on my computer, started looking up some of these lakes. I quite frankly found conflicting information. So my ask would be, can we take this out? Can we go another level on this? Can we cite the specific POAs and where they come up with this? For example, Town Lake, less than 300 acre lake. It's a finger lake, residential. It's what I would term as a professional civil engineer, a retention basin. Same with a bunch of the other lakes. Some of them are larger. Some of them, I don't think Canyon Lake. I don't think the Canyon Lake that's cited here is in Texas. It's in California. Nevertheless, 500 acre lake. Can we take this down to the next level so we get some of the specifics?
I have all that information. I'm happy to share it with you.
Fantastic.
So all of this is cited, the research. Canyon Lake is in Texas. So I'm sure there's 200 Canyon Lakes across the US. So, and some of this is, to the point that it wasn't for the entire lake. There'll be sections of the lake where they restrict horsepower or other things like that. So there probably is some conflicting information based on that, but happy to share. The board got, I think, an 11-page document for me going through all of this. And I have another document that breaks it down at the individual lake level. So I'm happy to share any and all of that.
I appreciate it. I think it's relevant to the discussion, as is the discussion about lake size. Just a comment on that. I noticed we all came to terms with, our lake has roughly 300 acres of navigable water. But what I will say is we also have a 50% buffer then, or actually 100% buffer for dissipation of wake energy or wave energy that's created. So that energy has to go somewhere. And if we're saying we only have navigable waters of 300 acres on a 600 acre lake, there is benefit to that.
So your point is that even the water that's in a shallow cove or no wake cove still helps dissipate some of that wake energy. Okay.
We're coming down to we're trying to convince ourselves we're a 300 acre lake, and it stops there at everyone's shoreline and creates problems around erosion and things like that. When that's not a factual statement. It's factual. We have 300 acres of navigable water, but we're not a 300 acre lake.
No, understood. That's a good point.
Board, thank y'all very much for, I'm Lyndall Pennell, lot 87. I'm the current president of the Lake Kiowa Anglers and Conservation Club, and I am a member of the Rules Enforcement Committee. Thank y'all for the research on this, because as a Rules Committee, we've been doing a lot of research for about 1.5 years on this, because the Lake Committee brought a rule to us to look at and pass on to the board for approvals or disapprovals or whatever. So thank you for doing this research. It's very important that everybody knows, and I'm sure there's engineers and different kinds of folks in here that have their opinions on that, but at least we have a baseline to go from. First, let me tell y'all this. The LKACC has no formal club position either for or against proposed boat length rule. With that stated, we have an average membership in excess of 150 homes, 150 families, 115 to 150, excuse me. My direction to the club is that each member has their own position on this proposed rule addition. So everybody has their own mind. We're not coming up here as a pretty good sized organization saying, hey, we as a club support this. Everyone individually either will or won't, okay? Second, as a member of the Rules Committee, we're asked to submit a rule brought forth by the Lake Management Committee to restrict the length and power of watercraft going forward. This has been a discussion and debate for a long time. Much research was done to look into state studies, private lake positions on boat configuration and water displacement data. You've seen some of that up here today. We may not all agree with it, but it is data that we need to look at. We currently have rules on the books, 3.3.6.2, 3.3.6.4 that thoroughly cover prohibited lake activities. and the types of watercraft associated with large lakes. These rules continue to be difficult to enforce. And with that said, I've now established my personal position on this matter. I fully support a length restriction going forward due to the data and research for small, shallow water impoundments, the biology disruption, not just a shoreline disruption, the biology disruption of the ecosystem of the fish, spawning habits and that, and also shoreline and seawall erosions that may occur. This proposed length rule would be easily enforced at point of entry going forward. My opinion is bigger, heavier, longer, deeper draft boats have no upside for our lake and will not end well in 5, 10, or 15 years. Common sense must prevail, and I encourage better enforcement of the existing rules. Thank you.
I guess we transition from questions to member comments, but that's okay. That's okay. So let me just, no, I appreciate that. That's why we're here. So before we go to more comments, because we're going to have a little more process around that, any other questions that we have, and then we'll transition quickly to comments.
This is I'm Allison Tarpley, lot 1734. My question would be, when you look at data, you look at surveys, you look at all the factual, which I appreciate. All of us know that, especially somebody, I'm in sales, I can skew things one way, I can skew things another way. I can sell both sides of a situation. You can pull certain information that may make it look one way, may make it look another way, pull certain information out of a survey. So my question would be, how many people on the rules committee that has been bringing the rules to the table, and how many board members are on both sides of the issue? Or do we have a majority on one side of the issue bringing the data, the information, and the suggestions to the community?
So a couple things with that. No idea where everyone sits on the, as far as this idea on the board. We haven't had that discussion. We haven't voted on anything. We're continuing to listen and learn. And again, that's why we're here. We've done a lot to try to make sure that we're as objective as possible. I pulled this data together that was presented here, but I used Perplexity, ChatGPT, Claude to go through all the data so that it pulled out the information in an objective way. So it wasn't Dan going through and say, oh, look, big boat, we're going to put that one on there, or, we're going to cross out horsepower or whatever. So all of this was pulled, using technology to help make sure it was as objective and unbiased as possible. So, so to me, again, the point here is, and as we mentioned earlier, nothing here is trying to drive to a certain conclusion. Nothing here is a proposal. This is just the factual information, the research from all the different places that I put together in this little presentation so that we can share it across the group. So, Nancy reminded me that right after this meeting, we'll post all the detailed research, including the different lakes, so you can all see it. It'll be on the Kiowa website. If you want to ever talk about it, I'm happy to go through the research that I did. I know Cecil would be the same, and anyone else. George and the Rules Committee has gone through this a bunch. So, we're trying to be as open, transparent, and make sure we get all the information we can before anything is decided. Yeah, Nancy, you can jump in, but our practice till now is we're still listening and learning and understanding. So where I was 6 months ago, where I am today is definitely different based on the information. So that's why we haven't done that. But Nancy, you want to comment on that?
I think it's a great thing that you say. And so part of what we do is listen to what our members say. And so we have, I can't even tell you how many emails that we've received on both sides of the issue before. We as a board don't sit around before we go in there and discuss what it is. We just can't. Our rules say that we can't. I am guessing that our rules committee chair will say that if you want to come into a rules committee and see what they're talking about, you're privileged to do that because all of our meetings like that are open. And so, so that's about the best I can tell you at this point in time, how to be as unbiased as possible and still do the best that we can for our members. But every board meeting is open and we always allow people comments, and we allow people comments before we start anything. And our board agenda is out there 72 hours or more. And so people can see what's coming forward. And the other thing about rules is that although the board approves them to go to the membership, and then the membership has 30 or more days to provide feedback. And then that feedback comes back to the board through the community manager, through a board member. And then at that point in time, we have the opportunity as a board to say, yes, we're going to move forward and make that a rule, or we're going to send it back to the rules committee as we've sent a bunch of them. Or we can decide to move forward and not do it at all. So that's the best that we can do. If you have a better idea, I am all open to tell me what that is. But and I understand from a sales perspective how that goes too. So
Yeah, I was in sales for a long time at Fidelity, so I understand. But I just wanted to add on what Nancy said. The board tries very hard to be as open and transparent as possible. Every board meeting is not only open to anyone, the agenda goes out, they're live streamed, they're recorded, so they're all out there. The minutes go out in the communique. On the Friday after the board meeting, there's materials like the treasurer's report that gets sent out to everyone through constant contact. So if there's any other ideas around how we could help with communication, that would be great. The other thing that I think some people don't know is that if you see something on the board agenda and you have a particular comment on it, but you can't come to the board meeting, shoot one of us an email and we'll make sure it gets shared appropriately. So a lot of people take advantage, well, not a lot, a number of people take advantage of that, especially today, but that's really another opportunity. All right, so we're going to transition to comments, if that's okay, since we have questions, comments, I guess. Yeah. So now that it's 5:30, so Rich and Dylan, are you still willing to do that? Are going to come around. So Nancy's going to time. We're going to get a 2-minute limit on time. She'll give it.
have your questions, comment, or whatever.
All right, I'll be quick. Starting with the end in mind, Alex Yakulis, 1633. Starting with the end in mind, we've been kicking this can down the road for quite some time now. Can we put a directional date on the calendar where we'd want to bring resolution to this?
Yeah, I think so. I was waiting, but
He still has a minute and 34 seconds to go. So, yeah, next question. We'll go on. That would be great. We started years ago doing this, and we have a big boating season that's about to come up. So some of those things to have and say by February, March, April, some of those rules in place would be great. We have rules right now. Our biggest opportunity at times is enforcing them. And so we've already put things in place to enforce rules. And so best I can tell you, we're going to have that discussion over the next 30 days or so. It'll come back to the rules committee. They'll talk. The board will talk. And I would say in the next 30 to 60 days, then we'll start putting some things out there for the members to look at. Best I can tell you at this point today, Alex, right? Best I can tell you today.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Carolyn Peters. I'm lot 1616. And I actually think that this should totally be delayed for another year because the one thing you never talk about is how many of these large boats are out here on the lake. So I was here today. Were there any of these large watercraft out on the lake today ruining your shoreline? I didn't see one. I would like to know from the board how many of these watercraft have been out on the lake since Labor Day. I do agree with Nancy, how to save Lake Kiowa and preserve it is very, very important. I got to get my glasses on. The size of Lake Kiowa is factually discussed today, but shoreline erosion is mostly caused by wind and rain runoff. And boats at Lake Kiowa can be controlled with riprap. It's not funny, which we should be investing in. Why don't waves bounce off the dam? Does anybody know? Because riprap absorbs it. Riprap is also improves our fish habitat. And the horsepower ban is worthless. I have a 150 horsepower bass boat and a 400 horsepower nautique. The 150 horsepower bass boat goes twice as fast as the nautique. Make it make sense. Also, Dan said consistently and applied to everyone. Under Texas law, property owners associations are required to enforce the rules uniformly and without bias. The Texas Property Code states that a board's discretionary authority is presumed reasonable unless it can be shown to be arbitrary. This is not a theoretical concern. The issue of these boats and wake surfing has been addressed by the Texas Court of Appeals in a case involving homeowners right here at Lake Kiowa. That case demonstrated there's a legitimate legal argument that jurisdiction over Lake Kiowa lies with Texas Parks and Wildlife, not solely with Lake Kiowa. If the association continues to restrict wakeboarding or these boats in ways that are inconsistent with state regulations, we risk further financial burden and legal action. A special assessment was already levied on all homeowners to cover legal fees from a prior lawsuit, a case that the Lake Kiowa POA ultimately lost to its own residents. Are all the homeowners aware that your dues were used to fund that litigation?
Thanks, Carolyn.
Carolyn, I do want to just clarify one thing. There's been multiple lawsuits around, is this Texas water or not? And there was one in Harris County that said it was. There was one in Cook County that said it wasn't. Those two court cases got reconciled, and this is private water. This is not anything that Texas has any control over. We're responsible for this. So anything like that is not accurate. So we can talk about it later. We can show you the lawsuits and the reconciliation from the courts because that's what happened. So end of the day, we can move on to the next one. I agree.
Dave Slack, lot 692. I'm a member of the Lake Management Committee, and I'm very concerned about the health and the safety of the lake. I want to thank the board for all this information up here. I think that work clearly shows that we recognize there is a big issue here. When a boat is registered at Lake Kiowa, owners are asked a direct question. Is this a wake boat? Yes or no? The question exists because the rules already address this concern. Rule 3.3.6.2 has already been addressed, but what it says is, it says that watercraft specifically designed or modified to create a large wake for wakeboarding, wake surfing, or similar activities are expressly prohibited due to the potential damage to private property and seawalls. The key word here is designed. Modern wake boats may no longer rely solely on internal ballast systems. Many are designed now with external fins that come out and hull modifications that intentionally create large wake. The technology has changed, but the purpose has not. If a boat is designed to create a large wake, then by definition it falls under this rule. If it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's a duck. As the October meeting, President Jackson, you stated more than once that the Lake Kiowa POA will enforce the rules on those to whom the rules apply. This rule applies here. There should be no additional boats designed to create large wakes allowed on Lake Kiowa, period. This is not about preference. It's about enforcing an existing rule to protect shoreline property, water quality, and the safety of everyone on the lake. Thank you.
I'm going to read one of the emails we got. We're going to try to mix some of these in as well. So Jeff Hecker wanted to be here tonight. Jeff is lot 1646. He couldn't be here. He asked that we read his comments to everyone. So this is Jeff's words. Sorry I could not be there to present my thoughts, but this topic, I'm very glad that this topic is being discussed at Kiowa. For me, it's not about the size of the wake or weight boats or wakes that a boat can produce, but it does bring up a number of concerning challenges I'm hoping that the board and the community can discuss. To start, the POA approved structures, including structures on the water and over the water, like boathouses and piers, all of which 800 plus structures were approved with low and unknown wake resistant designs. As wake boats and wakes get larger, producing larger, that's my fault, producing larger wakes, those boats have not been allowed. There's no waivers, there's no large wake engineering standards here at Lake Kiowa. Second, our lake at a full level leaves 2 feet or less of distance between structure levels and the water. In many cases, the boats themselves are hanging down from the boathouse inches above water level. 3, certain boats, definitely wake boats, ballast boats, can make man-made wakes of 4 to 5 feet. A V-hull 26-foot boat with a 250 horsepower engine plowing through the water can also make a 4-foot wave. 4, with the current locations of safety buoys, this type of boat can easily make a wave that capsize property, hit boats and lifts, and all that has already been approved by the POA. So if the POA approves the boats that can produce the waves that damage structures, so if the POA approves boats that can produce waves that damage structures they have approved, the POA could expose themselves and our community financially to file lawsuit or damages. In summary, the POA is exposed because it affirmatively allows large boats, it approves over the water structures, it fails to reconcile these two policies, it does not require, enforce, or have policies on wake resistant design, location restriction, any kind of owner waivers, any kind of engineering status.
Okay.
I'm Bob Brown, lot 1336. We live on the lake. This last few months, we spent some money to replace an old breakwater, which was oil filled pipe with 2x10s behind it, and replaced it with the interlocking plastic stuff all locked together. Has there been any consideration given to establishing a standard for what lakefront owners should have as breakwater, and approach it from the other side to where, say, when property changes hands on the lake has some standard that that breakwater has to be brought up to in order for the property to be transferred? Hopefully I did the right thing.
Yeah. I don't have an answer to him. Cecil, has something in the Lake Committee been discussed regarding this?
Cecil Heath, Lot 297, current chairman of the Lake Management Committee. I know Mike Reinbrandt talked about it earlier, diffusion of energy when it comes from waves, wakes, whatever. There is no standard, but I can tell you this: if you go out and go Google to the internet, you would find out that it would tell you that riprap or standard rock is. Anyone out there could tell me or take a guess at what most homeowners are doing when they do installations of seawalls and shorelines? Steel plate, mostly, or wood. That doesn't diffuse anything. All it does is bounce energy from one way to the other, just like a bathtub. So we don't have a standard, but I can tell you, if you look at best practices, it would be natural. It would be large rock that diffuses energy.
Mark Tarpley, 1734. I probably shouldn't get up here and talk yet because I'm a candidate. I will be up later. But Dan, the email that you read off, that same email was on Lake Kiowa's Facebook post this week. The problem I have with it, and I think that's we're only hearing that particular side. If our lake is 1,200 feet across, wakes dissipate at 150 feet to 300 feet. The gentleman's concerned about 4 and 5 foot wakes going over your dock. That's if you're right next to if you're right next to the property line. That's not what we're asking. I think that, just rational discussion would be there's the large south end of the lake. It's 1,200 feet plus, and there's plenty of room to have the wake dissipate without it causing structural damage. And I just think that that's very misleading email. I wish it wasn't read into the record. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yes, Bob Davis, Lot 440. I live on Osceola Cove, which is off of Quanah Cove. Dan, you will know where that area is. It's a ski in, ski out, which is also, I think, known as a roundabout on weekends because it creates a lot of boats in and out without stopping, and which creates fairly significant waves. My particular property happens to be somewhere around maybe 150, 250 feet off of the circle that's made. So we get it caught in that power wave as they're starting to turn. When that happens, you get the wave action. And yes, it does dissipate into the cove over here. And in the dissipation into the cove, oof, it takes a lot out. Think about it, an ocean. If you ever snorkel in the ocean and you're out in 30 or 40 foot of water looking down, a wave comes by and you don't know it, or you're very happy. But you try to snorkel on the wave break or inside the wave break, and what happens? You get wiped out. Complete sand, erosion, gone. Think about it. I had bought this home in 2019. There weren't a whole lot of rock, riprap, or whatever you call it, in front of my concrete wall. And I'm like, why didn't the owner maintain this or keep this? So about a year and a half later, I added rock. What was recommended? 6, 8, 10-inch rock. Put it in. Lo and behold, 2 years later, the rock's gone. Where'd the rock go? Guess what? I found it 25 feet out from my dock and 3 to 4 inches under silt. So what's being moved in is wave action, which is knocking down that rock, and then silt's coming on top and filling up, which all has to be dredged away. I had to replace that rock. I had to replace it with 12 to 16-inch rock to keep the movement down from the wave action that's coming off of these boats. Unfortunately, I've got 4 or 5 of those large rocks that have recently been knocked off of each other, rolling out into the water. Had to, where my lift is, had to dredge that out manually myself to try to get the lift to go down. So this is a pretty significant issue that we need to address and stuff.
Hi, Mike Reinbrand. If you can't tell, I'm an engineer because I'm going to ask for a little bit more data. Lot 68 for all the keepers. Do we actually have data on how many docks have been damaged due to wave action versus just storm? Actual data claims.
That's a tough question to ask. And no, a lot of people do it on their own and don't even know and recognize and understand that by Texas state law, they could go forward with proprietary claims, not through the POA and not through Lake Kiowa, but they could do personal claims against boat owners. Because if you look at the rules that are stated in the state of Texas, it does state that a boat owner who is operating out on that lake and creating what they call hazardous wake that could create damage is responsible for that action. So, but to answer your question, there is not. Agree. That's a tough sell to get to. One of the things, estimated cost I've done some looking, and you're talking anywhere from $35,000 to $65,000 or $75,000 on repairs, depending on the size of the shoreline, the size of the dock, and what damage gets done, and a lot of that factors. But on average, across the United States, it was where I looked. That is happening. So that's real information.
Tommy Patterson, 1735. Can you go back one slide for me? So when you zoom in, am I correct where it says there's 14 mentions, 13, 12? So that's how many mentions on these comments, 14.
That is true. However, I think there was 240 total people that filled out the survey. So the vast majority of people chose not to. And then not everyone filled out or answered this question or put in verbatims.
But it would appear that 14 people are passionate about that, or 12 people are passionate about that.
Not necessarily, but I mean, I can understand why you think that.
Comment?
I've been out here about 5.5 years, looked out here for about 10 months. In that 10-month period, I probably saw 6 boats on the water. The usage, other than holiday weekends, I think some of this is completely irrelevant.
Dean McElroy, lot 1357. The thing, as a former board member, the thing that worries me about this whole situation is the lawsuits are endless on both sides. And from boat owners to property owners to docks and all this stuff. And the mess that we have is what's going to happen to our community. And if you look at the surveys, just like you say, that hardly anybody answers them, but the ones that do don't want the wake. And as a board member, you try to do what the community wants, and that's what they're trying to figure out now. But what I'm concerned about, whatever the community decides, it'll be voted on. You can probably look at the survey and see how it's going to come out. Then what? Then they could bankrupt the community with lawsuits. The last lawsuit that she was talking about over here, they finally gave up after X amount of dollars. So what is the board supposed to do? Nothing. I mean, somehow we've got to figure out, and I'm probably not going to happen, but we got to come together as a community and say, whatever the most people want, let's do that. And then let's leave our lawyers out of it. Let's have a community. My goodness, this is the hardest question right now in front of Lake Kiowa. There's more people on both sides. So whatever happens, we're all neighbors. We're all community. We all have, if you live on the lake, you have one perspective. If you live in a cove, you have another perspective. If you fish, you have another, but we all are Lake Kiowa, right? And I understand you might have a $200,000 boat you bought, but if the rest of the community doesn't want you to have it, that's something to consider. Other way too, whatever.
It is hard enough here to share your opinion sometimes because you don't know how other people are going to think about it, to Dean's point. And so I appreciate whether you apply or I can't even say applaud or don't applaud, but you can talk to him afterwards and give him a high five if you want to. Just don't beat him up in the parking lot kind of thing. And we'll continue on. So I'll give you another 5 minutes and then that's it.
Thank you, Nancy. This is Bob Hyde, lot 689 on Sarcee Cove. I've been coming up here and have been acquainted with Lake Kiowa since 1973. And I've had to pull grandchildren out of my dock area because they're getting injured because of big waves. And I'm aware of the agreement way back when, where an individual did negotiate an exemption, but that individual has to turn it off when it's by the beach where the children are playing in the water. I just wish we had a spirit of compromise where we can look at how to, and a compromise is successful if nobody likes it. So we can go to even odd days where if you gotta make your waves, then make it on the odd days, and then I could have my grandchildren in the water on the even days and not have to get out the bicycle helmets and put them on while they go into the water. Thank you.
Steve Butler, lot 1601. I've been here for 25 years. I moved here to wakeboard and water ski. I raised my daughter and granddaughter on a wakeboard and water ski here at Lake Kiowa. That is the sole reason we moved here, so we could ski and wakeboard freely. I'm not for anybody's dock getting torn up. I understand, but there's only 3 days of a year that it's there's maybe 6 to 10 boats out there that are creating wakes. But most of that is at the center of the lake where it's dissipated before it gets to some of the docks. Now, if you live on the big area of the lake, yeah, you might get a little bit of wake action there, but usually most of the wake action happens in storms the majority of the year. If we were, I'm not for, I guess, not ruining people's docks and things like that, but if you live on the lake, it's just a given that you're going to get wakes. Same with golfers. If you live on the golf course, you're going to get hit with golf balls, but we don't get rid of the golfers because your house is getting hit by golf balls. So most boaters that are out here are respectful and they know how to take care of the boat and take care of their neighbors. They're not trying to wreck anybody's dock or anything like that. They're just having fun with their kids and their friends. Thank you.
Turn it off. You're on.
Deanna Brown, lot 1469. First of all, I want to say in my younger days, I loved wakeboarding. It's a rush. But as someone now who skis and floats around and gets pulled behind boats on tubes, I've had a couple of really bad experiences with large boats and inattentive drivers. So I have very specific concerns about the boat size. I've lived here about 15 years, and we have a lot more children here now than we did 15 years ago when I moved here. I've heard of more than one situation to his story that kids have had to be pulled out from their family docks, pulled out of the water quickly because of the wake and the level of waves that are hitting them. If you're driving a large boat, or a wake boat, and you cause a small person to be slammed up against a dock or a stone wall and they're seriously injured, how would you feel? I've personally been flipped over off a jet ski by a large boat who came within 15 feet of me going twice as fast as I was. And I'm a good swimmer, but I gurgled a lot of water that day. Don't get me wrong. It isn't safe in this small, shallow lake with so many people on skis, kayaks, swimming off of docks, and riding jet skis. Our rules and our behaviors need to be paid attention to. We need to be mindful of the whole neighborhood and its inhabitants. The thing that sets this place apart from most others is the feeling of pride, fellowship, and common loyalty to each other. And I think most of us feel that way. We want what's best for the neighborhood. So if the rules change where we allow large boats, please be kind to people in smaller vehicles. And if it doesn't pass, please pay attention to what the rule is and don't do it.
Hi, I'm Karen Schneider-John, and I'm on lot 539. My comments are similar to Deanna's, but I strongly support the implementation of additional regulations regarding boat length and motor size on Lake Kiowa. Establishing clear rules for these factors is not only simply a matter of preference, it's a critical step in reducing the risk of serious accidents that could impact our entire community. If, heaven forbid, someone were to be injured due to the absence of such regulations, the consequences for the community could be significant. While some have argued at previous town meetings that imposing these restrictions could negatively affect property values, I hold a different perspective. In the unfortunate event of an accident, it would be all too easy for a plaintiff's attorney to demonstrate negligence on the part of the Property Owners Association for failing to enact reasonable safety measures. Such a lawsuit could result in a substantial financial burden for every property owner, not just lakefront. Potentially requiring multi-thousand-dollar assessments per lot spread over several years to cover legal costs and damages. Ultimately, Proactive regulations not only enhances the safety for all residents and guests, but also protects our community from devastating financial and reputational harm. Setting appropriate limits on boat length and motor size is a responsible action that demonstrates our commitment to the safety and ongoing well-being of Lake Kiowa.
On behalf of the board, thank you all for being here, taking your time and effort. I appreciate everything everybody said. I am going to take something in advisement and I will bring to our board meeting in a couple of weeks. And I'm going to ask the board if they'll approve an ad hoc committee that has, I'm going to take up Ashley's suggestion, that has X amount of people that are yes for this and no for this. And whatever this may be, don't know what it will be. But, you know, if you're concerned that we're considering all sides, I think it's important to have somebody that can maybe come to the common ground. To Bob's point, was it Bob that said we're nobody's going to be pleased kind of thing? But we'll do that. At least I can make that happen today while I'm still president, if you will. But I think that's something that will continue the discussion. I hate to put it another 15 or 20 years down the road for all the things everybody in here just said. But we'll do our best for our members because that's our job to do that. And I will tell you that a lot of passion in here. But, you know, on Wednesday night at 4:30, there's a charcuterie board in one with Rich and Nancy, because we do chat meetings once a month, and it's this next Wednesday at 4:30. We also do one a coffee with Nancy and Rich at 9 o'clock on Thursday morning. And you're always welcome to come and ask questions, share those things. We're not there to tell you or to sell you anything. We're there to listen to you. And so you always have those things every month as an opportunity to come and talk to us about that. So please take advantage of that sometime. At least you can come and have a glass of wine on us. So, or a cup of coffee and a donut on us, whichever it may be. But thank you again for coming. I'm not going to prolong it. I'm going to give us a break here. At 6:30, it is your candidate forum. And then after that, it is a mixer with the candidates where you can ask them their opinion on everything that you've just heard. So feel free to stay. It's 6:30, come back, and then we'll see you then. Thank you very much.
Good evening and welcome, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sandy Hare, and I currently serve as the president of the Kiowa Women's Club. On behalf of the Kiowa Women's Club, thank you all for being here tonight. Lake Kiowa Women's Club is honored to continue our long-standing tradition of hosting this candidates forum as a service to our community. We appreciate the time and commitment the nomination committee for their selection of our candidates who are running for the POA board, and thank to each of the candidates for your willingness to serve. We also want to thank those in attendance for taking an active interest in the future of our community. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce the chair of the KWC Candidate Forum Committee, Deanie Daly, who will guide us through this evening's program. As she comes to the podium, let me thank her for emceeing tonight's event and recognizing her for serving in this role for the last 3 years. And I'm happy to say she's also committed to next year. Yay! So again, without ado, thank you, Deanie.
Thank you, Sandy. She's so sweet. Thank you all again for being here. So I'd like to introduce my committee. We've got, together we took suggestions or from the suggestion box. We took the questions from there. And we've got Leanne Doherty, who's here. Stand up, stand up. Kim Deeks could not be here. Martha Ann Montanero, stand up. And is Donna Rector here? No, Donna. I'm not sure where she is. So thank you all for your hard work. I really appreciate y'all. And we can't leave Debbie out. This is Debbie's 4th year doing this. She's got the timer there. She's gonna keep everybody reeled in. Each candidate will have 1 minute for introductions for themselves, and whenever they answer their questions, they'll each have 2 minutes to do that. Okay, so as I said, these questions came directly from the members this year. This is really the first year that's happened because every year I set out the boxes and I never get any questions, but I did something different this year. I put a piece of paper, a stack of paper, and a pen, and it worked. Now we got the normal candy wrappers, and again, for the second year, we got a dollar bill. So that was fun. I expect one next year too. Okay, let's go ahead and get down to business. We are all here to learn more about our POA board candidates. Each candidate, again, will have 1 minute to introduce themselves and share something with us. After that, each will answer 2 questions. They have all been given these questions ahead of time. Once that is finished, we'll take about a 5-minute break to get a cookie in the back and to do whatever you want to do. Then we're going to have the candidates come back and answer 1 question. And after that, I hope that you all stay and grab a drink and mingle with the candidates. Okay, let's get started. We're going to start with Rick.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, I don't think it's on. Try again.
You don't have to start my time over. That's fine.
Can't run them at the same time. Decided.
So, how are y'all? My name's Rick Jameson. I've lived at Lake Kiowa since 2017. My wife and I moved out here then when I went to work for First State Bank. And we love Lake Kiowa. It's an amazing community, and I'm running here to continue to make that a great place and make the community better. So, thank you.
Hello, my name's John Makuta. I grew up down the road in Garland Richardson area, and then I was fortunate and got an appointment to the Air Force Academy. Went there and served in the Air Force for 5 years. Came back to the Dallas area to work at Texas Instruments Defense and then Raytheon. My wife and I looked for a place on a lake for about 6 years. And someone who was retiring from Raytheon pointed out Lake Kiowa to me. So that's how I ended up here in 2014. Love the community. I am a part-timer. I do have a son who's got some disabilities, and we have him in programs down in Plano that don't allow me to be up here full-time, although I'd love to be because I just love the community and the activities around the lake. So I'm here tonight because some people asked me if I'd be willing to serve the community, and I think it's that time. I retired a few years ago. I've kind of got things lined up, and I'm done.
Green light.
Green light. Green's good. Hi, y'all. I'm Lisa McCrae. My husband and I, Bob, say hi, Bob. And that's our son and my daughter-in-law. I know this is like going to Wheel of Fortune or something. But anyway, we moved out here in 2020, right in the middle of COVID, did the stay-at-home orders and all that kind of stuff. I'm retired 42 years with, it used to be GMAC, then it became Ally Financial. Went to Baylor University, GMAC paid for my MBA, and I'm here because this is just, I traveled a lot in my job. And truthfully, there's not another Lake Kiowa anywhere in the great state of Texas. There is a lot of country clubs, but there is not a whole lot. There's nothing like this where people actually know each other's names, care about each other, and I just want to help it go faster. Thank you. Better.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Josh Orton. My wife, Ashley, right over there, and I have we moved here in 2018. I'm originally from Western Michigan. Moved down here, met my wife, and she and her family have had a home up here for a very long time. She introduced me to Lake Kiowa, and it was just an immediate I just immediately fell in love with it. It reminded me so much of the lakes I grew up on back home. My wife and I both are pilots for American Airlines, and we decided when we were going to settle down and start our family, this is the place we wanted to do it. The activities, the community, just everything about Lake Kiowa made it the perfect destination. So I'm here tonight to serve and to represent the people that make this community what it is. Thank you.
You ready? Good evening, everyone. I'm Mark Tarpley. My beautiful wife of 26 years, Allison, is in the back. We bought out here in 2017, and it's been one of the best decisions we ever made. Two kids. Our oldest is a senior at Samford University in Alabama, if you know where that is. And our son is a freshman at Oklahoma, where he's on the football team, Boomer. They have, in the 9 years that we've been here, this is the most incredible place that we could ever ask for. We want to be here long term. We want a place for our kids to eventually have families and bring their kids. We are transitioning to full time out here. We've kind of been part time, just live about 30 minutes away, but full time around April, and really look forward to just giving back to the community.
Hello, I'm Dusty Turner. 12 years ago, I was invited as a guest to play in the Capers, and immediately I said that'll be the last time I'm a guest. I will be a member out here from now on. Since then, I've seen the patio be built, the pavilion, which brings all of us together as a community, the par 3, the resurgence of the lodge, I said the other night, and I just want to keep that momentum going. So I think this is a great place. We have a lot to give. This is a great community, and I want to give back to it. And I think this is my role. Thank you.
Thank you all so very much. Are y'all ready to get this party started? What? Come on. Okay, here we're going to start here. We're going to start with John Makuta. This is question number 1. They are all going to answer the same question here. And they each get 2 minutes again. Okay, so what are your top 2 passions related to our community, and how do they shape your perspective as a potential board member? How do you plan to seek out and incorporate feedback from the community to help you stay non-biased in your areas of interest?
My number one passion is the lake. That's the main reason I moved here. I love boating. I love swimming, fishing, the beaches here, sitting on my dock and just talking to friends or listening to music. The lake, when I moved here, I could look down to the bottom and I could see the bluegill nesting right below my dock. That's changed a little bit. We've got some issues with the lake that we have to resolve for us all to continue to enjoy it. But I love the lake and I want to keep it healthy. And that's where my passion is. My second passion is probably the community. When we were looking here, when we first came on Lake Kiowa, everybody waved at everybody. I still see that and I love that. You're in your golf cart, you're driving, people are waving and saying hi. The activities that we have here, the 4th of July, the Easter, Christmas, everything that the concert series, phenomenal. And you don't get that everywhere that you go. So that's where my passion is. In terms of how I will function on the board, call me. We'll meet at the lodge. We'll meet on my dock. We'll meet at your house. We'll meet at my house. Just don't try to use social media to get in touch with me because I am not on it. I avoid it at all costs and depend on other friends who will say, hey, you better look at this. We'll show you what's out there because I don't use it. But I do use email. I do use a phone. And I love meeting face to face. And that's what I believe. I understand that as your representative, 15 seconds, then I'm going to close with something that I just read. And that's that. And I think it applies here. It's easy to be dissatisfied. Things are going to come up. But there's a lot at Lake Kiowa to be satisfied about. A whole lot.
He even got the music.
Lisa, do you need me to repeat?
My turn? Okay. I guess my 2 largest passions out here kind of go hand in hand. One of them is the community itself. And I actually love seeing the young people that are out here. It's kind of reminds me a little bit about Mayberry for y'all of those that can remember that far back. But I love seeing the children out here. I love seeing them with their grandparents, their aunts and uncles, and they're building memories. And they're someplace besides in their living room with a tablet, and they're fishing and they're doing things. And that's so important to families to make those memories and to have those memories to look back on later, because none of us live forever. And I came from a family that worked 24/7, and I sometimes, a lot of the times, wish we had more memories than just going to work, and that's pretty much it. But the other one of my passions kind of involves time management, because from the world that I came in from, if you have a project that is going to be done, it's going to be done, and it's going to be done on a timely basis. I know there's time and there's Kiowa time, but I also believe in clear set goals, clear expectations, clear transparency. And if something's not moving along the way it should, we need to know why, not just vague answers of it's this construction or it's this or it's that. I want to know why. And I think everybody out here, we're all shareholders of Lake Kiowa. We should be able to go into the POA and look at anything we want to, because that's why we pay dues. And I just want things to, like the front gate, good Lord in heaven. I wasn't even here when that started, but we still don't have the front gate. But that's my main thing, is I want things to become accomplished, so that I think once that you accomplish things, the sense of community even gets bigger and better. And it's time for me to hush. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I know music.
I'd like to echo that my top passion in Lake Kiowa is our lake. My family are all water skiers. There's nothing better than an early morning when the lake is calm to be able to get out on the water and enjoy just what I think is our greatest asset out here, our lake, and making sure that that lake stays as a permanent fixture in this community in good health and good condition for the future. I want my children to be able to look at our lake and say, you know what, Dad, your family, your generation left that lake better than when you found it. So that's my number one passion about the community. And then to tie into that, my second passion really is just the long-term viability of Lake Kiowa. We have so many great amenities outside of the lake that are used every day by our membership, making sure that those things are kept up to date, kept in good working order, so that all of y'all can enjoy them. That's to be able to enjoy them into the future. That's a big passion of mine. For me to be able to have a non-biased opinion of what's going on in our community, I would say just reach out, talk to me whenever it is possible. If you see me out riding bikes with my kid, stop me, say hi, talk to me about what you're feeling. Talk to me about what is on your mind and what needs to be changed, or what you like going on in the community. I am part of a younger generation, some would say, up here, but I also have older parents who live in the community. So I get the viewpoints of multiple generations here, and I value them all.
I would say that probably my biggest passion is the fact that we want to retire here. It's the investment that we have. I think everybody kind of views their property, their time, their efforts out here as an investment. That's really one of the reasons I ran for the board, is to be able to have influence on that. As Josh said, I mean, we want to make sure that it's not good just for this year, but for generation after generation. I mentioned in my opening about my two children and having grandchildren come out here. So really just the investment in the community and continuing to do the things that continue to make Lake Kiowa great. I mean, the second thing, as John mentioned, I wish I'd gone first, but he already said it, is really the community itself. There is not another place that has the fireworks show that we do and the concerts. And when I tell people about this that aren't familiar with Lake Kiowa, you can see the envy in their expression and the way that they respond to that. And so I love everything about it. I love the lake. I love to play golf. The par 3, hats off to the visionaries that did that. That was great. I'm excited about pickleball that's coming. So I really think the community itself is just a jewel. And again, I want to serve on the board that has some direction and kind of seeing that to the future. And I guess as far as am I getting close on my time? As far as getting feedback from members, my cell phone is on the directory. It always has been since day one we lived out here. I have an email, and I know that board of directors emails are in the communique, and I would encourage anybody and everybody to reach out, text me, email, whatever. I'd love to hear from everybody.
Yeah. I think my number one passion out here is this lodge, the patio, the pavilion. There's something that pulling up here and you know everybody. There's always an easy conversation. There's something about pulling through the gates and just everything from the day kind of let's go. And that's only here at Lake Kiowa, I believe. You come up here, there's always a friendly faces. There's always great conversation. And so the lodge, patio, pavilion is my number one. My number two is the lake. I think the lake's a place where everybody in the community can have their thing. Boaters, cruisers, fishermen, kids can have their time. Sunset cruisers can have their time. I think that's my favorite passion out here. Like everybody has reiterated, I'm a social guy, love to talk. So anytime you want to come up here and ask me a question, hit me at the lodge, call me, text me, anything you want. So I'm available at all times. Thank you.
Ditto. Seriously though, I mean, going last, listening to what everybody said, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, we moved out here for a specific reason. When we saw Lake Kiowa and really got inundated in the community, we really wanted to come out here. So my number one passion is really just keeping Lake Kiowa what it was and what it is, and making it continue the way it is. I mean, it's a very unique community, small town community, Mayberry kind of thing. It's amazing. Our first experience here was 4th of July, and my wife and I coming out here just couldn't believe what it was like. My second passion would probably be, I don't know, maybe the golf course, because I like playing golf. So, I mean, it's just a lot of fun and we enjoy it. So, the par 3 is an amazing place, and the regular golf course is amazing. As far as what could I do to help my constituents out, I'm an open book. You can call me, reach me, email me anytime you want. Just, I want to be here for you. I want to do what and serve you the way I can. So, just reach out. Thanks.
Thank you all very much. We got some woohoos in the audience tonight. I like it. I like it. Okay. Question number 2. Describe your involvement in POA committees and or other Lake Kiowa organizations, and what 2 committees are you most interested in being a part of if chosen to be a board member, and why? We're going to start with Lisa.
Don't start the timer. Okay. Ready. Okay. I'm going to ask for a little bit of grace here because, like I said, we moved here in 2020 in the middle of COVID, and we had the stay-at-home orders. And as soon as the stay-at-home orders were lifted, I joined KWC, and I retired December of 2023. Well, then here comes January of 2024, and I'm diagnosed with breast cancer. So I spent the next 18 months at Texas Oncology, but I came through it with the grace of God, and everything's good now. Thank you. Thank you. But saying all that, I haven't had a whole lot of time to join a committee or anything like that. But I've had a lot of fun this last year with the KWC, pretty much doing everything from arts and crafts to going to see llamas and just all kinds of different things with them. Then also, and also pickleball. Then the 2 committees that I really have an interest in and is the Parks and Rec and Safety and Security, because I think that's so important out here that we all feel safe. And we have some residents that I know y'all are going to find this hard to believe are older than me. And it's I've always had such a respect for our senior citizens, because I'm almost one, but I want them to always feel safe and that anything that they need, as well as our children riding around on their bicycles and things like that. Real quick, I have a neighbor that just moved in, and when he was looking at the house, I said, "Are you going to buy it?" And he goes, "Well, I think," but he goes, "Can I really let my son ride his bicycle, my son and my daughter?" And I said, "Sure. You know, they're not going to get out the gates. There's no way. They'll be fine." Well, his boy ran behind me the other day in a car, and I stopped to see his dad, and he was like, "Oh, did he do something wrong?" And I said, "No, but put some color on the child." He was on a black razor with black shorts, black shirt, and black helmet. But I mean, in this community, you feel safe going to somebody and saying, "Hey, you know, please put some color on your child." But anyway, that's what I want to do. Yeah.
All right, I'd like to also ask for a little bit of grace here. I have not been involved in any of the Lake Kiowa committees. Up to this point, we've been pretty busy raising our two girls. They're 5 and 2, and we are expecting our third here in the next 10 days or so. So we've been pretty busy. That and managing our careers as pilots has taken up a lot of time. But we've decided now is the correct time to serve. We've gotten so much from this community that I really want to give back. So the two committees that I'm most interested in serving in are the Lake Management Committee as well as the Parks and Recreation Committee. Those are the two assets that we use as a family the most. I think they are the two main drivers of people coming into this community and saying, "This is where I want to stay." They have both the lake and the parks are very important for young families, and I want to make sure that those things continue to be great.
Can I ask? I'm not going to ask for a little grace as well. No, we ditto. We, as I mentioned in my opening, we're moving out here full time in the spring, and really excited about it. We became empty nesters in May. So now is the time that I have the time to commit. I'm a member of MGA. I don't do a lot with it. It doesn't take a huge time commitment except to be able to play golf. But I haven't served on any other committees. I've served on boards in my professional career. I've reported to boards. I've been elected to boards. So I understand the dynamic that the board members have with the community and how they represent really what the community needs and wants. So, as far as, serving out here, I'm looking forward to it, whether it's on the board of directors or on a committee if I don't make that. But as far as the two, I would say, 1A and 1B would be Parks and Rec and Lake Management. I do think there's a need for workout facilities. I know that's kind of been talked about in long-term plan. I think that would be another great add for as far as recreation. But then the other big one for me would be long-range planning. I meant that in my opening, that I am committed to kind of seeing where this lake goes long-term because, like I said, we have an investment. We all do, and we want to see it continue to flourish and continue to be exactly what everybody, views Lake Kiowa as is just a great community, great asset. So.
Well, you think in 12 years I lived here, I'd be on a committee by now, but no. So, however, I did volunteer at St. Mary's in Gainesville as 6 years for the coach there. We went 8-0 last year, so that was awesome. I also served as their youth Bible study for the 7th and 8th grade. I also served on the Wishes, Wonders, and Kids board for the last 7-8 years. So as far as committees, my talents in my career have been a special projects manager per se. I like to see a goal set. I like to see a finishing date. And so that makes me the long range planning guy. That makes me the lodge and tavern committee something. But that's where my talents lie. That's where I want to apply it. So any of those committees that fit those set of needs.
Well, I'm not going to ask for anybody's apology because I haven't served on a committee out here and honestly don't want to. I mean, I'll tell you straightforward, being on the board as being a board member, you should be responsible for all of the committees that are associated with Lake Kiowa, and you should be available to support them in any way you possibly can. So my goal is really, if elected, to make sure every board and every committee member and every committee has the support that they need to be able to handle what they need to. I've been a member of the MGA. I've been a member of Wishes, Wonders, and Kids. I've been a member with Independent Bankers Association. I've been a member of many community involvement boards, and being a part of committee, if you're on the board, it just doesn't really seem like you should be supporting every committee that is underneath that board. So that's my opinion, and thank you.
So I'm going to be one of those that said, between being a part-time up here at the lake, and I traveled almost every week when I was working. I just retired, kind of got things lined up, and I feel like right now I have the time to commit. I belong to an organization where it's the Air Force Academy Association in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We do a lot of things for veterans, for people with disabilities, for all kinds of causes. And the president of that, every meeting that we go to, and we also do fun things like watch parties for the football games. But the president, after every meeting or at the end, he says, remember the motto, service before self. And that kind of stuck with me. And that's why, in terms of a committee, yeah, the lake really appeals to me because I live on the lake. The lodge, because I like to use it a lot. But the truth is, match me up with whatever committee. Once I get, if I'm on the board, match me up and I'll serve there. And if I don't make it on the board, then tell me where you want me to go. And I'm ready to serve at this point. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. We're going to take about a 5-minute break. Be sure to get you a cookie if there's any left, right back there. Get a cookie, do whatever you need to do, and we'll meet you back here in about 5 minutes. Back again. I hope everybody is enjoying this. Hope you're finding this a good value of your time. Okay, so right now we're going to do round 3. So we literally put 3 questions in a hat, and they drew them. They each have 1 question, but there's 3 questions. They can only be asked twice. Did I say that right? I think I did. Okay, so we're going to start with question number 1 with Rick. Okay, here's his question. As a new member of the POA board, how do you see the board's role in supporting compliance with Rule 3.3.6.2 that prohibits boats designed to make large wakes?
Wow. What a big question. So, living on the lake, I will tell you that honestly, I feel like who cares? Seriously. I mean, we've already got one guy out there that can do wake boats, and we signed an agreement with him, and so it's okay for him to do it, but nobody else can do it. So that's selective enforcement, and we shouldn't do that at all. So if you're going to let one do it, you need to let everybody do it.
Okay.
Peace out.
Okay. Peace out. Lisa also drew that. It's just her favorite question, if y'all can tell.
Yeah.
She also drew the same question. Go ahead.
And this is a perfect question for me because we've never owned a boat, never wanted a boat, don't know anything about boats. Only thing I've ever been in is a paddle boat.
Best day to boat ownership is the first day in the life.
It's like an RV. Yeah, it's just like an RV. But saying that, when I think about this, it's a whole lot like any other neighborhood question. Basically, you're talking about running your boat too fast, screwing up your neighbor's dock, doing this, doing that. I would never do that to somebody else. And sometimes I wonder why people get out on the lake or get anywhere and feel a sense of entitlement to do it to somebody else. It's like, why can't we all just behave? I mean, it's kind of the golden rule thing. And I also look at it as an enforcement issue. I don't think if we had a security team of 100, we'd have enough people to enforce all the laws and rules and regulations. I just don't know why we can't treat each other and drive our boats with dignity and respect, and call me sometime that you want to just pontoon around. But I am willing to learn. I am willing to learn. So call me.
Call me. Thank you both. Okay, the second question is, Lake Kiowa has significant financial challenges with limits on dues and reserve funds being depleted while costs are increasing. What are your ideas on addressing these issues, and how do you believe you would be able to help members better understand these challenges? Josh, you're up.
All right. Well, I hate to answer a question with a question, but that's what I'm going to do. I would like to ask the community what their priorities are. There's a lot of different opinions about what we need out here, whether it be a workout facility or an enhanced driving range. The options are endless. The sky's the limit, but the funds to do it are not. We need to really come together as a community and think, what are the things that we really want and what are going to be the best things for this community moving forward? Now, when the board or a interest group takes up a project that is going to affect the community, I think the biggest thing is transparency. I think the board needs to face the membership and be completely honest about the costs to construct the project, the cost to maintain the project in the short term and the long term, because no one wants their dues going up, but the world is getting more expensive. The cost of construction, the cost of maintenance is getting more expensive as well. So we need to prioritize things that are going to make the membership happy, increase the viability of our neighborhood, and have a clear picture in mind of what that's going to cost us in the future.
Okay, next up with the same question is John.
So I think that every family, every business, every organization that has a budget and is going to face these same issues. We're all facing the challenges of these rising costs and what's going on. So when I thought about this question, I took kind of a different view of it. I agree totally with Josh that we got to have the priorities, and how does what we're committing money to align with those priorities. But the thing I was listening for, and I actually pulled up an example, and it was on that road reserve fund that they actually had a little meeting on that earlier, and these, so I might have picked the wrong one, but I look at it as, how can you break it down differently? Can we charge for large trucks coming in the gate? How do we do that? Can we, well, because they're the ones causing the damage. It's not your truck or your car or your motorcycle that's causing the damage to the roads. Do we require them to come in only half loaded? You know, can we do that? Can the cement trucks, instead of being fully loaded, can we do that? So I think there's different ways at looking at some of these, not always on the expenditures and how do we get the money for it, but how do we bring in extra money? But also, where do we cut costs? Where do we look at things that don't make sense to us? And let's eliminate that. You know, back to the road, what the subsurface of the road, is it not adequate enough to support asphalt? I know that my son lives in an area, and that's exactly what they had to do with their asphalt roads. So a lot of different ways to look at problems and address the questions. That's it.
Okay, question number 3. Lake Kiowa roads, oddly enough, are private, therefore no government agency is allowed to fund or maintain them. The creation of the road reserve fund that each member will need to contribute to will go to maintain the roads. Do you agree that an additional fee is necessary? Why or why not? First up is Dusty.
I do not think it's necessary. I'm against this. I think it's part of our board, not our current boards. No offense there, but it should be on their long range planning committee. It should fall under that. The boards didn't have the foresight to look far enough ahead to see it coming. Previous boards as well. So I think there are out of the box thinking, like John said, about the trucks or contractor charge something. Some of us, it's just $20 a month. Big deal. So others, it's $20 a month and they're on a fixed income, and it is a big deal. So currently I'm out on this deal, and that's where I stand. Thank you.
Last but not least, Mark.
This is a tough one, and we got presented this question right before. I think personally, yeah, I think I'm for the reserve fund, and I think the board did a really good job of laying out and being as transparent as they can. If you came to the 4 o'clock meeting about why we need it, the board is not. They're not individuals up here making decisions. They're actually, implementing new fees that affects them as well. We're all owners out here. I think one of the beautiful things about Lake Kiowa is the roads. If you go to Moss Lake, and if you have property out there, I apologize. Or go to Lake Holbrook or something like that. Their roads are nothing like ours, and I think that's really one of the beauties of the lake. Aside from all the other amenities that we have, is the roads. We have to have a dedicated source to take care of them, and we're almost to the point where we're too late in foreshadowing the need to have additional funds available. So we're kind of at a crossroads where we have to, go ahead and adequately fund it. And I do support it. I know it is $20 a month. Maybe what I think we need to do is look at other areas where we can maybe cut. Are we getting the best bang for our buck? Or let me rephrase that. The items where we get the best bang for our buck, is that the ones that we're prioritizing, or are we prioritizing something else? So I would like to, we need to look at everything, but it's specifically this question relates to roads. Yeah, I'll support it.
Thank you very much. Well, folks, that concludes our 2026 KWC Candidate Forum. I hope y'all have again found this time valuable. And if you're a little bit closer to deciding on who you're going to vote for, that's a good thing, right? We're going to turn this back over to, no, Sandy told me to close. So, okay, we're going to close with some cookies in the back. And again, we've got a bar back there. So if y'all could grab a drink. Oh. It's all through the month of February. Yes, sorry. Starts January 31st. That's right. And goes through February. Exactly. Go ahead. You vote early and vote off. What did you say? Yeah, it's a link. It's an email link. Email link. Yeah. Sorry, that caught me by surprise. And one per house. Yes, not 2 adults or anything like that. It's one per house. So, okay, y'all grab a drink and ask the candidates whatever you want to ask them. Okay. Thank you for coming. Thank you.